the Redevelopment Agency, Public Finance Authority, the Public Utility Authority, Housing Authority, Paris Joint Powers Authority, and the Paris Community Economic Development Corporation of the City of Paris. It is Tuesday, November 10th at 6:32 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Corona.
Here.
Councilmember Rabb.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rogers.
Here.
Councilmember Magana.
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Here. Thank you. Item 3 is our invocation, which will be led by our Mayor Pro Tem, Rita Rogers, and if you'd all remained in position for item 4, which is our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilman Corona.
Dear Lord, we ask that you bless our leaders in Washington, D.C. to bring unity and harmony, dear Lord. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, dear Lord. We ask a very special blessing on all of our veterans, near and far. We're so honored to have them on the battlefield for us. So give them a special blessing, dear Lord. Tonight we ask that you bless the council so that we may make wise decisions that are pleasing to you. We ask that you bless our residents and to make sure that we get a handle on this COVID-19, dear Lord. It's taking too many people out of here, and we don't want to see another soul lost, dear Lord. We ask all these things, and we want you to guide our first responders, our firefighters, our law enforcement as well. We ask all these things in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Just quick house rules for those of you who are joining us on Zoom. We are here at City Hall practicing our social distancing. I'm the only one on the dais, and all the rest of the council is in separate locations, either from home or different locations within the City Hall campus. Present with me is our city clerk. If you are on Zoom, you want to make a comment during public comment, please click on the participant button and look for your raised hand in there, and our IT will cue you in as to when you can come on and speak. And if you're utilizing the access through a telephone, if you hit *9, that will indicate that you want to speak. And if you want to withdraw that request, just hit *9 again. Otherwise, thank you, everyone. And if you do have other devices on other than what you're using for the meeting, we ask that you turn them all off because it will interfere with the reception of the microphone. Okay, at this time, we'll continue on item number 5, which is a report on closed session. Mr. Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. On the council met in closed session on the first item of anticipated litigation, the council was updated and took no action. On the second item of the appointment of the interim city manager, the council voted unanimously to appoint Clara Miramontes as interim city manager. The current city manager, Richard Belmudas, has indicated he is retiring effective December 30th. So the appointment of Ms. Miramontes would take effect upon that retirement. And the council also directed staff to conduct a recruitment for a permanent city manager. And the timeline for that is to be determined.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Item 6 is presentations and announcements. There are none. Item 7 is approval of minutes. 7A is consideration to approve the minutes of the regular joint meeting held on October 27, 2020 of the City Council, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, and all those listed on our agenda. If there are no questions or comments from council, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'd motion to approve. Councilman Rabb.
I'll second that. Corona.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Rab and second by Councilman Corona. Please call our roll call vote.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Councilmember Rab,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas.
Yes,
5-0, motion approved.
thank you. Item 8 is our consent calendar. Consent calendar are items that are normally enacted in one motion. The mayor or city council may remove a consent calendar item for a separate action. We will have public comment, which will be limited to 3 minutes. Madam Clerk, is there anyone wishing to speak on this on this
No,
item?
sir.
Good. Council, does anybody have anything they want to remove for further discussion?
Yes, item 8A for separate vote.
Hey, anybody else? Okay, Malcolm, you want to go ahead and make a motion with your eliminating item A?
I will motion to approve the rest of the consent calendar, excluding item 8A.
I will second that motion.
Very good. Have a motion by Councilman Corona, second by Mayor Pro Tem Rogers. Please call a roll call vote.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Councilmember Rab,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas.
Yes,
5-0, motion approved.
thank you. Councilman Corona, you're on for item A.
Okay, I don't really have any comments because I made my comments at the October 27th meeting. So I'm not going to be voting yes on this one.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion to approve item 8A.
Motion to approve, Councilman Rapp.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Rab, second by Mayor Pro Tem Rogers. Please call a roll call vote.
Councilmember Corona,
No.
Councilmember Rab,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas.
Yes,
Rab, Rogers, Magana, Vargas, yes. Corona, no.
thank you. Item 9 is our public hearings. 9A is a consideration to adopt resolution number next in order, which is approving the city's CDBG 2019-2020 first program year consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. And this will be introduced by our Assistant City Manager, Clara Miramontes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'd like to introduce Ms. Sarah Cortez de Pavon. She'll be presenting this item tonight.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Let me share my screen with you. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The item before you is for the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report to HUD, known as the CAPER. Annually, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, grants entitlement funds for CDBG to the city. Last year, we received $905,522 to meet community development and housing goals outlined in our 5-year strategic plan. Normally, the CAPER is due 90 days after the end of the fiscal year. However, due to COVID-19, HUD has extended that to 180 days after the end of the fiscal year. Now, as you know, coronavirus has affected everyone greatly, and this has impacted our HUD funding. Some of the HUD changes and adjustments were, again, the CAPER submittal extension was to 180 days after the end of the fiscal year, puts it towards December 23rd of this year when it's due. They have shortened the public notice and comment period to 5 days. They have allowed for funds to be used for COVID-19 purposes. And also we were awarded round 1 funding under the CARES Act of CDBG coronavirus funds. Some of these programmatic changes and adjustments that staff had to do, as well as our subrecipients, where 3 of our subrecipients were affected directly by COVID-19 and were unable to proceed with services, resulting in a reallocation of funds. We did have to create a new program because of this. All services were held virtually by subrecipients when they were able to. There were budgetary changes to allow for COVID-19 precautions with service delivery, and that was allowed by HUD. There was also some delays in construction. Now, coronavirus does have some impacts and barriers to fulfilling our consolidated plan strategic outline plans. Those include stay-at-home orders. The subrecipients' clients were unable to go in person for services, so this greatly impacted some of their service delivery. Technical assistance to subrecipient agencies were all in the form of virtual learning for us. We were unable to complete our program monitoring on site. This also greatly had budgetary impacts. The second thing was they created new needs. Primarily, there was a workforce need. So a lot of individuals, a lot of our residents lost their jobs. They were laid off or they were reduced in hours. So the income that they had normally was affected, and thereby trickling down to some of their housing expenses, housing needs, utility needs. And then the third one was education. All of our schools were impacted, and so that put on a big strain to a lot of households. There were some new protocols that were implemented to meet the impacts and barriers. One was social distancing. Because of the coronavirus, we do have social distancing orders. There is a mask mandate in order in the city. We do have a wonderful public health department who were able to set up a hotline, and also they created and implemented Paris Together, which provided educational information and awareness, and they are constantly updating our residents with CDC information and county information regarding the coronavirus. But the biggest barrier still remains funding sources. As much as there is funds coming down to us in the form of the CARES Act fund, there's still limitations to the use of those funds. So sometimes some activities are not eligible to be used under the coronavirus funding sources. So it still does remain our biggest barrier in fulfilling our strategies regarding impacts and barriers that COVID-19 brought. With round 1 CDBG funds, which we did receive in April 2nd of this year, HUD awarded us $536,986, and that was to primarily use for COVID-19 pandemic to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19. So with council approval, we did have the rental and mortgage assistance. We allocated $400,000, and so far we have assisted 49 households with rental and mortgage assistance. Recently, HUD allowed to go from 3 months assistance up to 6 months. So a lot of the former individuals that took advantage of this program really early on came back for an additional 3 months of funding and assistance. We also allocated $136,986 to utility assistance, and to date we have assisted 46 individuals, and that remains for 3 months assistance. With our regular CDBG funds for the 19-20 year, we did fund the Fair Housing Council Riverside County, and they provided fair housing services. They exceeded their goal of 1,400 individuals served to 1,413 individuals. And they did provide anti-discrimination, landlord and tenant mediation services. Paris Valley Youth Association Sports, or P-Town, provided their youth mentoring program. It was provided after-school recreational boxing instruction through their youth mentoring program. Their goal was 35. They were able to assist 23, and they were directly impacted by COVID-19 as you can't do boxing classes virtually. Lifelifters International did their community life program, and they provided senior citizens with dance and exercise classes, as well as CPR, AED, and first aid certification. Their goal was 25. They were able to assist 12. This was another one, another subrecipient that was affected by the stay-at-home order, and they were unable to continue their services virtually. For many reasons, a lot of the seniors are not tech savvy, so they were having difficulties trying to get onto Zoom, even for the exercise classes. So that was the primary barrier for them implementing their services. The Boys and Girls Club of MENIFEE Valley did before and after school care. They were providing enrichment programs such as homework assistance, fitness, tutoring, sports, day camps, and field trips. Their goal was 86. They assisted 33. They were partially able to continue their services virtually. However, because the orders were going back and forth where everything was shut down, then reopened, and then shut back down again, they were not able to really deliver their services. As you see on the last picture there, that was when they partially opened, and all those kids are socially distancing, wearing masks. Love for Life Association had their Unbreakable project, which provided youths with monthly educational workshops on bullying and suicide prevention. Their goal was 40, they assisted 14. They were able to continue their services virtually. However, they were not able to have any new enrollments once the stay-at-home order took effect. Family Service Association did their More Than a Meal program, and they provided nutritious meals to seniors age 62 and over at the senior center. Their goal was 100. They assisted 197. FSA was able to adjust their services and provide meals as a drive-through pickup service at the senior center. One of the programs that we used or that we created when we had to reallocate the funding that, for example, P-Town was unable to complete using was the eLearn program. And this was a response to the school providing virtual learning. So we did help 8 households with assistance in paying their internet services. Unfortunately, because this was a pretty late program, we were only able to assist individuals for the month of June. Habitat for Humanity Inland Valley was able to complete 1 property for senior home repair services, and that property included a roof replacement, water heater replacement, installation of new smoke detectors, and a carbon monoxide detector. Habitat was affected by COVID-19 with scheduling inspections, constructions, and there were delays with the state approving the SHPO environmental reviews because of people working away from home or working away from the office. Citywide pedestrian improvements, they did complete this project, and there were sidewalk improvements at various locations within the city. And as you see on your screen, there are a few sections within the city in CDBG eligible areas and tracks where installation of new sidewalks was installed. The Senior Center renovation phase 3 was completed, and this included an expansion of the pool room and addition of a small hallway. Staff recommendations are that City Council please adopt the resolution approving the 2019-20 CAPER and direct staff to amend the CAPER as needed and submit the report to HUD no later than December 23rd of this year. This concludes my presentations. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sarah, for your presentation. Before I open up the public hearing, any council have any questions or comments for clarification?
Hi, Mayor. Yes, if I may. I want to commend Sarah for this great presentation. Thank you so much. And for clarification purposes, I reached out to Sarah to ask some questions about the document. And so thank you so much for responding to that. And my question was just that there were some barriers experienced that I know happened because of the pandemic. And so Sarah reassured that this document that was on the agenda was a working document and it will be amended. And as that last slide actually noted, that changes and amendments will be made. So just for clarification purposes, I want to make sure that the public knows that the item on the agenda will actually be amended.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Don't see anybody. Okay, at this time, we're going to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Very good. We will close public comment, and I'll call for a motion on the resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second. Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Rogers, second by Councilman Rab. Please call a roll call vote.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Councilmember Rab,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas.
Yes,
5-0, motion approved.
thank you. Item 10 is our business items. 10A is a consideration to approve an extension to the agreement with Nielsen Mercksamer, Perinello, Gross, and Leone LLP for legislative advocacy and lobbying services. I hope I got all those names right, Michelle. And this will be introduced by our city manager, Richard Belmudes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As indicated, before you is an extension of our contract with NMPGL. For a little bit of background, 2 years ago, council directed us to look into the opportunity of having a lobbyist. We needed to have a voice, particularly in regards to sales tax issues at the state level. We did an extensive RFP process. We met Ms. Rubalcaba and her firm. And so tonight, she's going to present a general overview of the current conditions. We also have, as a business item for your approval, the extension of the contract. As this council is aware, we had significant progress in the last 2 years with sales tax issues, particularly the glacier spill. And without question, without Ms. Rubalcaba's assistance, I don't think we would have had the voice we had at the state level. So I want to thank the mayor and Councilmember Corona, I think actually went up to Sacramento and helped us with the lobbying. But I'd have to say for the first time going through this scenario, having a lobbyist at the state level, I think it more than paid for itself. So with that, I'll go ahead and introduce Ms. Rubalcaba, and she has a PowerPoint for your pleasure. Michelle.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm sad to not be with you guys tonight. I know, circumstances are what they are, but here we are. This is my home office since March. To be honest with you, it's hard for me to believe that I was just with you guys in March when the pandemic was starting. We had lunch or dinner in your guys' back antechambers. So it's just amazing where we are today. If you will allow me to take a moment of personal privilege, I would like to say thank you to your city manager, Mr. Bermudez. It has been a pleasure to work with him. It has been a pleasure to kind of lead and direct the city's efforts under his leadership. Congratulations to the interim city manager. I'm looking forward to working with her in her time in that position. And thank you so much. I will share my screen now so we can get started with the presentation. We practiced this with your IT guys, so I hope it works out. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Excellent. See, you pay me the big bucks for this. Figure out how to Zoom. Okay, so beginning, let's do a quick recap of what happened. Obviously, we all know coronavirus hit. The legislative session started in January, and there was an influx of bills submitted by the legislature, which quickly in short order became nothing, to be honest with you. The governor's shelter in place order that came down in March required that everyone figure out in short order how to legislate and advocate remotely. It is something that we learned on the fly. We, as advocates, are not wired that way. Advocacy is a face-to-face kind of that relationship information gathering type of job. And so with the shelter-in-place order, as your lobbyists, we had to kind of pivot and download all the apps now, like the WebEx, the Windows Teams, the Zooms, and all that stuff. And we started to advocate in this new environment. There are pros and cons to that. I think it is hard to ask for someone to vote no on something when you're trying to stop something legislatively if you're not in their general space, because the assurances that you get on a one-to-one aren't really there. I know that for cities in particular, there were some wins and there were some losses. It was to be expected. This legislative session, I think we were all just looking to survive. So in 2020, what happened was there was about 2,000 bills that were introduced. Only 400 of those actually made it to the governor's desk. And that's because what happened is once they realized we're not gonna be able to have in-person committee hearings, we're not gonna be able to have, all of this in-person action, we need to narrow the type of legislation that we are gonna put our focus and attention on. Most of that legislation had to do with responding to the COVID pandemic. So you saw bills dealing with workplace safety, right? If someone were to come in and be sick, kind of making sure that they had a job to come back to. Employer responsibilities, what did you have to do as an employer if you had someone say that they were COVID positive or living with someone COVID positive? There was still a substantial amount of effort put into AB 5 cleanup, which is the bill that had to do with how independent contractors are now seen. There was a cleanup bill that made some exemptions happen for that. And then, of course, very early in the year, trying to figure out how was the state going to respond to COVID and purchasing the necessary medical supplies that we needed to respond to this. Okay, so looking forward, now that we know what COVID is, we know how to maneuver in this remote legislation, what can we expect? I think that right now, most people are following whether or not there will be a peaceful transition of administrations. There's a lot of back and forth about whether concession is required. I think that for you and the city, what will be interesting to watch for 2021 is the musical chairs that happens with elected officials. So now that we have a Biden administration coming, there is going to be a set of, obviously, Senator Harris, now Vice President Harris, her slot will need to be filled. And that creates a lot of jockeying. And also just within his administration, I think that there will be some assembly members and senators that try and get some type of appointment in a Biden administration, which will open up seats in the Senate and the Assembly. And then there's that whole domino effect. I'm sure that you guys know that way better than I do. Still to be decided who will control the US Senate. I think that the runoffs in Georgia are going to get a lot of attention from both parties. I know we are hearing that part of the reason why the Republican Party is urging President Trump not to concede is to kind of build this momentum for the Georgia runoffs. So I think that there's going to be a lot of focus on that in the next couple of months. The next one, will COVID run its course? We obviously understand that COVID is here at least for a while longer. My firm represents a couple of pharmaceuticals, and so even in the best case scenario, a vaccine, in order for a vaccine to be widely distributed in the summer of 2021, everything would have to just fall according to place. And that never happens. Trials never make it out of their first phase, right? You always have to go back. So I think that for all of us, we should expect COVID to be around for a large part of 2021, if not the entirety of 2021. I already spoke about the vaccines generally available. I think that a lot of people are hoping that there's a summer 2021 distribution of a vaccine. I don't know if any of you saw comments by our governor that said, regardless of what comes out of the FDA, that he's going to have his own California task force to look at the vaccine and whether or not it's up to California standards. So there's that. The economy, it's an interesting conversation about the economy, especially for local governments. I think that we didn't see the drop that we were anticipating, and perhaps there's going to be a backlash or some drop in revenues for some local governments in 2021. I think that because you were already within your budget year when COVID started, I know that for some Northern California counties, they are anticipating some potential layoffs in 2021 and some reduction in services. I think that hopefully with a Biden administration, we might see some federal assistance though. Looking forward to legislation in 2021, what do we anticipate? I think that we should still anticipate a significant amount of movement from Sacramento. There will still be a lot of bills having to deal with COVID and moving forward and how to help the economy get back there. This is number 2 under A is kind of this weird situation where each individual legislator is granted a certain amount of bills. They're given a 50 bill load for a 2-year session, so 25 and 25. A lot of their bills died last year, things that they really wanted to see happen. And so what I think we're gonna see is we're gonna see a reintroduction of a lot of those bills this year because they weren't given a fair shot, which means that there will be a less number of new ideas for 2021. And I think that it will be interesting to see how people can convince a senator and assembly member to author a bill that wasn't a previous idea from 2020. Also, still legislating remotely, as I said, those challenges we will continue to manage. There was a new learning curve for us as far as the advocacy world. We had to testify remotely on a phone system, which took a minute to figure out, but I think that now I would say all of the third house, which is the lobbyists in Sacramento, have figured out how to be effective and still be able to be zealous advocates for our clients. We anticipate that there still will be a variety of issues that won't be COVID related, and I think that they will be given some time this session because they weren't given any time last session. So we'll see things like homelessness, housing, still workforce development, those types of issues, which because of COVID were put on the back burner last year. Budget for 2021. I think that our budget might be in a better position now with the Biden administration than we were anticipating. The legislature avoided major cuts by assuming a lower deficit than the governor. We also assumed that there would be some federal assistance. And if not, then we would have additional triggers to cut the budget further. I think that those conversations are probably starting right now between Governor Newsom and President-elect Biden. And so hopefully there will be not the necessary trickle-down cuts to local governments that we were anticipating. That's all really I have for you. I'm here for questions of, how did it go this year? What do we think next year will look like? What do we want to focus on for next year?
Very good, Michelle. Thank you very much for that great presentation. Council, anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's very good to see you again, Michelle. It's like I wish we could see each other under different circumstances, but I'm glad of the work that you're doing up there. Going back to the Glacier bill, is there any expectation that we might be seeing something like that come back?
So I think that what happens in tough budget times is that people try to get creative on how to bring money to their districts, right? And so that's always a concern. I think that Senator Glacier might not be the member to carry that bill. If it does come across, it might go to somebody else. I think that he is looking at doing a lot of wildfire response because of where his district is. I have not heard that Senator Glazer is planning on reintroducing the bill, although I have been asking around. But I think the concern always is when times get lean, people start to get creative about how to bring resources and funds to their communities. And as you know, the bill had a lot of support from a lot of people.
Yeah, well, we're very thankful of the work that you and I know the mayor did along with other cities. That was very key to ensuring that the Glazer bill was not passed, because that would really hurt our finances. So I want to thank you for that, for being successful with that. Specifically the city of Paris, are there any other bills that you think might affect us positively or negatively?
There hasn't been any bills introduced yet. Bills will start to be introduced on December 7th is the first day that they can introduce any legislation for the next 2-year session. So as soon as they start getting introduced, I review them, and then I send them over to say, hey, do we care about this? Or here's my assessment of it. I think it has a positive impact, we should support. Has a negative impact, we should ask for amendments or we should oppose. And so I think that for all cities, you should be looking at, obviously having to do more with less. That, I think, is the way people are preparing for 2021. It's kind of the order of the day, having more things to do and provide to our constituencies with less resources from the state.
Okay. And then I know I ask you this all the time, anytime you're here, but how can we as a council further help you out, especially during this COVID times? I'm sure people aren't really meeting in the state capitol and stuff like that, but is there any way that we can assist you further?
Yes, and I love this question. And please, I hope that, anytime that you can give me information on what's happening in your district or locally or regionally that you think is an issue that needs to be raised to the level of state government, I am just a phone call, a text, or an email away. I think also I would ask for some of you to be open to joining me on Zoom meetings with some of the legislators. That's still happening, and there's no one who can be as good of an advocate as the 5 of you. It just is the reality. They understand that I'm the contract lobbyist, but you live and breathe it every day. So I would consider and ask for all of you to be open to my invitation if it happens to come your way of joining me on a Zoom call in either a more private setting, just one-on-one, or with a coalition on bills that will be moving and advocating on behalf of the city.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor, if I may. Thank you so much for that presentation, Michelle. We really appreciate it. And it's worthwhile definitely having you advocate for the city of Paris on the state level, and somebody that's keeping a keen eye on some issues that are coming our way. And then I just want to make myself available to be on the Zoom call. So please do send those calendar invites, and I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. You're on my list now.
Anybody else? Okay, I don't see no one else. Michelle, again, thank you so much for your help. You do make a bigger impact on our city, and when we go up to Sacramento, and it's been a pleasure working with you and staff up in Sacramento. I think we gained some big steps going up there, in particular the Glazer bill. That was a very successful visit, and that alone pays off for having you on board with us. So thank you again for everything you do. So
It's
that
a
being,
pleasure. Thank you, Mayor.
sure. So that brings to, I'll entertain a motion for, well, let's scratch that. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests from the public to speak on this item?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. I'll now entertain a motion for approval.
Mayor, I motion.
A motion by
Councilmember Magana.
Councilwoman Magana, second by
I'll second that. Corona?
Councilman Corona. Please call roll call vote.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Councilmember Rabb,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Okay, 10B, consideration to authorize the city engineer to solicit proposals from the short consultant list adopted by the Riverside County Transportation Department. This will be for environmental engineering services and to approve the proposed project management hourly rates for the Harley Knox Interchange project. This will be introduced by our city manager, Mr. Stuart McKibben.
Thank you for the promotion.
City engineer.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Stuart McKibben, City Engineer. I'm delighted to make this presentation to you tonight, but I'm not going to be doing it by myself. I'm going to be joined by former City Engineer Habib Matlan, who is still consulting with us here at Tri-Lake for important Paris projects. And the Harley Knox Interchange definitely qualifies as an important Paris project. The presentation is going to have four purposes. The first part is to brief the council on where we are on Harley Knox Interchange and advise you what our next steps are. The second purpose was to introduce you to our project manager, George Alvarez, and let him talk to you a little bit about the project. Unfortunately, on Friday, George contracted COVID, and so he's not able to be here tonight. But as soon as he recovers, we will get him in front of the council so you can meet him and find out what a tremendous individual we have to PM this project. And then the third thing is, again, authorize city engineer to solicit proposals for engineering and environmental firms to do the preliminary engineering and environmental work for this project. And then we would vet that and then recommend a firm to this council, and their contract will come back to the council for your approval. And if you don't like the firm, obviously we can do it again. And then lastly, and this is where Habib he'll be chiming in periodically, but also he's going to handle the part about discussing the budget and the costs, and he'll handle that. So to get started, I have a PowerPoint slide, but first off, I just want to say in the staff report, there was an explanation of why this interchange is so important to the city. Number one, Harley Knox Interchange is the gateway to that industrial area we have in North Paris. Trucks get off at Harley Knox, go down Harley Knox Boulevard, and then either go down Indian or go down Redlands Avenue to get to the rest of the industrial properties in the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan. So it's important to us that that works correctly. Currently, the interchange is at level of service F, and the way to describe level of service F is vehicles are backing up on the off ramps and into the freeway, and they're doing this twice a day. And also at the intersections nearby the interchange, they're also backing up. When you have this sort of thing happening, that's a big problem, and we need to have it addressed. The council showed foresight back in 2019 and realized that we needed to upgrade Harley Knox. We needed to get this happening because if Harley Knox is not working, it has an effect on Paris' economy and in fact the economy of the whole region. And so at that time, the council, we entered into an agreement with Caltrans for Caltrans to prepare this preliminary document. You have to have this document to go forward any further in the process. And in this document, which I'll go into a little bit more detail later, they looked at alternatives and things like that. So that happened. And so now I'm going to try to share my screen and let's see if we can do it. I hope I can do it. I'm selecting. Oh, hit share. And ta-da! So there's the little entry thing, our little introductory slide. So the very first slide, which should be working here, and now I don't know why it doesn't work. there we go, was to present you the qualifications of project manager George Alvarez and have him talk a little bit about himself. Like I said, we'll do that at a later time. But the thing I want to point out to you now is his experience with interchanges. I count 6 of those on his little mini resume here. There's also a resume included in your agenda packet. And so we're a Tri-Lake. I'm delighted and happy to have someone with this experience and this knowledge on our team in project managing this project for us. So I'm very happy with that. So George can talk about himself later on. And I'm still, right? Yeah, here we go. So the next slide is, what are we doing? This council entered into this agreement with Caltrans back in May of 2019, and Caltrans went away and the city funded them and sponsored this project review. Council earmarked about $400,000 to pay for this study. And they call it it's a long, I don't like it, project study report / project development support document. And then they give it some initials, but anyway. But what it does is it identifies the purpose and need of the project. Why is it important? And I just explained why it's important, and that's in the document. And then identifies some project alternatives that will relieve congestion and improve traffic operations of the interchange. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Then also has the scope of work, some preliminary environmental review, project schedule, initial cost, those kinds of things. That document is being finalized right now, and we expect Caltrans to final the document in January of 2021. And so what we want to do is, again, capitalize on that momentum and move to the next stage. So the next thing I want to show you is kind of the alternatives that they were looking at. Caltrans was looking at. And what I want to do is focus.
Do you have someone in your office or another phone or device on?
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay,
And it's taken care of.
thank you.
So what I want you to, these are the 3 alternatives that they looked at, but I really want to just focus, as an engineer, the first thing I looked at, hey, that one on the far right, that diverging diamond interchange is the cheapest one. And right now they're estimating the cost about $35 million. And what a diverging diamond interchange does is it allows you to come off the freeway up to this ramp, up the ramp, and then make unimpeded left-hand turns. It really smooths the flow of the left-hand turns, and that's a big, big deal for the city and for our economic activity in the city. The other 2, which are both more expensive, do not improve the level of service as much as the diverging diamond. The level of service for the single point interchange is F, which is what we have now. The tight diamond, it's at C and maybe D. And the diverging diamond is at level of service A, which is like free flowing traffic. So depending on what our environmental document comes out and how it examines this impact of this project, this seems to be the front runner on what we would choose to implement here at Harley Knox. So with that said, so again, I want to say we want to capitalize on our momentum right now. We're going to have this report approved. We want to get started on the next steps. The very next step is what's on this agenda, which is to approve or authorize me to solicit proposals from engineering firms for the preliminary engineering and prepare the CEQA documents and the federal NEPA documents that need to be done. Those costs, Beeb can talk to you a little bit about the costs and budgets in a little bit. Those costs, but on past projects that are similar, have been around $5 million. It's going to be several million, that's for sure. And we'll find out just how much once we solicit these proposals. Then after that gets done, then we can move to the next step, which is perform engineering, design drawings, specifications, cost estimates, which we call PS&E, and then secure the Caltrans approval. That will be done by another consultant. So we'll come back to you again to go through this again. I don't really want to go into all the detail, but we'll come back to you again with another asking for authorization and to choose another firm. And then the step after that is we need to secure all the necessary right-of-way by buying it, acquiring it, execute all the utility agreements with like Metrolink. There's going to be a bridge across the Metrolink railroad. Any encroachment permits that we need, we're going to have to get all those. They all have to be tied up and taken care of. Any Edison utilities, they all have to be taken care of before you go out to bid. And that's called certify the right-of-way. And I just want to point out that Mr. Dunn and the city attorney are going to be working hand in hand with this consultant to get that right-of-way acquired and those things accomplished. Then after this, now we've lined everything up, and the next step is to go out to bid and have it constructed. And that will have to be done by Caltrans or RCTC or perhaps even the county of Riverside. And so we'll find out, that's down the road a little bit, and we'll find out then how it's done. That putting it out to bid and managing that construction project just simply cannot be done by the city of Paris. All right, so the next step is, all right, so those are just 3 bullet points, but it takes a little bit of time. And the thing I want to point out here is that to get to awarding the construction contract, it's just going to be about 6 years from when we get the approved Caltrans document. In January, it's going to be 6 years until we're going to, on average, and based on similar projects, till we're going to be able to go forward and award this project. So that's the preliminary project schedule, and that's really what we've been talking about. And now I want to turn the mic over to Habib Malak, who it might be best if he just sat here, Habib, and talk. I don't know.
Thank you, Stuart. Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Happy to be in front of you, so to speak, and helping with presenting this item. I hope everybody is safe and staying healthy. Hello, staff. Nice seeing you all on at least your faces. This is Habib Motlaq, and what I was going to talk briefly is about the budget and the cost. Just as a form of comparison, if you compare our project, Harley Knox, with Placentia, which is being led by RCTC, very similar, and because they both have a bridge, and we do have some on and off ramp, they don't, but their cost for environmental and final engineering just for the interchange is about $5 million, and they've taken several years to complete that. The construction cost is about $34 million. So we could expect similar costs for our project, and with inflation and right away, we probably going to see some increase in right away costs and maybe some environmental challenges. And we do have an extra bridge at railroad crossing that we have to go through Metrolink. So that's the comparison. The good news is back in 2008, the city council was fortunate enough to review and approve RBBD, Road, Bridge and Benefit District, which collects money for all the construction activity you see up from all the construction activity you see up in the north end of the city from the industrial projects. That report, as adopted in 2008, set aside minimum of $17 million just for Harley Knox interchange itself. So all the costs for preliminary engineering, and I'm assuming a lot of right-of-way and engineering and environmental will be paid for by the RBBD funds. And I'm gonna go online and say on the limb and say that we will have more funds collected from RBBD sources. There's plenty of money available for this and other projects as we have more development on the north side. So the money for this phase of the project, as Stuart very nicely presented to you, is covered currently. Our goal is once we get to the construction stage, because we will have a shovel-ready project, we can not only bring in our partners, which are Riverside County to the west, March JPA to the north, and City of Morning Valley, that they all benefit from this interchange, and go and apply for grants and federal and state grants, as well as having our partners participate in construction costs. So I'm pretty confident that once we get to that point, 5-6 years from now, we will have sufficient funds to complete the project as presented to you today. So in order to have a successful project, you must have, for this type of project, you must have a competent and strong management team. And for that reason, unfortunately, your current TriLake staff, although we have the general knowledge to manage this kind of project, we don't have the hands-on experience to be able to go through various steps necessary by Caltrans and federal government to get you a successful project within the time frame. The table that you see in your staff report shows your existing TriLake rates, which is very low. And I'm going to say that we're going to keep those rates for a long time to come for your regular CIP and general engineering. And we've maintained those rates for several years now. The second rate is Riverside County rates as their staff rates, which you see is much more higher than what you are paying for engineering service today. And
Mr. Motlug, we need the slide to be changed because we're not seeing those numbers.
Stuart, can you change the slide, please? Sorry, Mayor.
That's okay. Apparently, there's no slide then for those numbers.
The rate staff report. Sorry, Mayor, give us a minute.
Sure.
I apologize. I know it's in the staff report.
It's in the actual staff report, not an attachment.
So it's fine if you want to continue. It just, you were referencing what we're seeing.
If I may, Mayor, I have it on my screen. I can try to share my screen to have the rates.
Sure.
Thank you, Clara.
That would just make it more transparent since he's announcing rates.
Yes. Apologize, Mayor.
That's okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All right,
Thank
perfect.
you, Clara.
All right, please continue.
We've shown you 4 columns. The first one is your current TriLake rates that we've kept for several years, and we continue to honor those rates for your ongoing CIPs, both current and future, and your general engineering services. And then you compare that to the second column, which is the Riverside County, basically their staff rate that includes their overhead, the building, the benefits, and so forth. And then we also were able to obtain what RCTC pays their consultants for similar project. And then we propose in the last column is what our rates is for this project only. So just want to make sure that the rates are higher, but they're significantly below the rates as you compare to Riverside County or RCTC. And if for any project that we're proposing higher rates, we'd like to come before the council, obviously, and get your approval for that. So we're asking you, in order for us to be able to manage this very important project, that you authorize us to bring the appropriate staff from current pool of staff, not from this office, so they can deliver the project and in time that you are expecting and under budget. With that, Mayor, I did talk about the fact that we're going to go after grants and we're going to get our partners to participate and pay their fair share. But we need to wait on that 3-4 years when we get closer to the final engineering environmental. So both Stuart and I are available for any comments or questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motlug, and Mr. McKibben as well. Council, does anybody have any comments or questions? Can you guys, there we go, I couldn't see my screen anymore. I don't see anybody raising their hand or acting frantically. Okay, looks like we're good. Mr. Motlug and Mr. McKibben, thank you very much for that report. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, then we'll move forward and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Rogers
I'll second that.
and a second by Councilman Corona. Call roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Councilmember Rab,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes,
5-0, motion approved.
thank you. Item 11 is our public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Anybody, any member of the public that may be online wishing to speak that didn't raise their hand? Okay, we'll close public.
I didn't understand that.
Item 12 is our council communication. Councilman Rab?
Thank you, Mayor Vargas. I want to start off by wishing all of our service members, or the men and women who served in our country, a happy Veterans Day. Veterans Day will be tomorrow, November 11th. And just a reminder, city offices will be closed. So I just want to thank all the veterans who served our country. And I recently received news that the Department of the Interior is offering free national park passes for all honorably discharged veterans, along with members of Gold Star families. So you can visit local national park sites, forest sites. There's one in Corona, along with one in San Bernardino, to obtain a free national parks pass that allow you to enter into any of the nation's 60 or 63 national parks, along with over 400 national park sites free for all veterans. So I just want to wish all the veterans a happy Veterans Day and thank you for your service. Also want to bring a few matters to the council and staff's attention. If we can look into possibly making a designated left-hand turn lane on San Jacinto where Wilson tees into San Jacinto. If you're heading on San Jacinto, like you're going east toward Nuevo, there's no dedicated left turn signal or lane to make that left-hand turn onto Wilson. I don't know if there's enough space into that, but if we can look into that. Another resident brought up to my attention that there's several racers going down A Street, and I'd like to thank City Manager Belmudez for looking into that and contacting the Sheriff's Department. We should get the sheriffs out there in the near future to monitor the area on A Street between Ellis and Mountain. If you know, there's Pinacati Middle School, there's the stop sign we placed at Reading 4 or 5 years ago in that area. And then you have Mountain. So there's been several racers in that area. Also in that area is Ellis. Now Ellis, there's a section that just goes from A Street to B Street. You have the continuation school there. We could look into ways to slow down some of the people. They go there, they do donuts right in that area. If it entails placing a median down that area or some kind of barrier that would prevent the people from doing donuts in that area. And that's a pretty highly residential area right there. One last issue I'd like to bring to the council's attention or staff's attention. If we can look into revisiting our cultivation tax for the marijuana cultivation. A few years ago, we put that on the ballot and it passed. We can look into bringing our rates in line with several of the surrounding cities. When we did it, we were one of the first cities to do it. And looking at some of the other cities, I think our rates are a little bit higher compared to other cities in order to maintain our competitiveness in that area, along with also at the same time making sure that we get our fair share in taxes. If we can look at the surrounding cities and maybe make a, by resolution or ordinance, I can't remember which one we did it by, set a rate that is more comparable with the other cities in the area. Along that line, if we can also look into whether or not we explicitly exempt non-canopy areas from the tax rate, and if that is in line with the original understanding that we go by in terms of dealing with industry stakeholders in the area. And lastly, if the self-distribution, now you have the cultivation aspect and you have the distribution aspect, we can look into whether or not the distribution aspect, if we're taxing that, and if not, if whatever way we set up with the distributors, is that enshrined in the resolution in the ordinance? So one, making the taxes comparable. Two, putting in so whether or not we tax just the canopy area or the whole facility, and putting that actually in the ordinance. And three, whether or not we tax the distributors. So we can look into that and get on that in the near future. Be much appreciated. So just once again, want to wish everyone a happy Veterans Day. Want to congratulate my colleagues on their apparent victories in the most recent election, and want to congratulate also the candidates for putting their hat in and running for public office. I know it's very daunting, and also want to thank all the residents in the city of Parrish for coming out and voting in this last election. I think it was probably the highest turnout we've had in well over 50 years. So thanks to everyone for coming out, making their voices heard at the federal, state, and local level in the last election. And have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Councilman Corona?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start out by thanking all of the veterans in our community that live here. Special thanks to Councilman Rabb for being a veteran, and also to our city attorney, Mr. Dunn, for being in the Air Force. The city of Paris prides itself in our veterans. We have several organizations dedicated to our veterans. So I want to wish everybody a great day tomorrow, and a special thank you for all of your service. As school is still in session, it's many of our high school students are still required to do some form of community service, but many of them are finding it difficult to do. With the COVID and people aren't organizing as much. So I want to direct staff to at least look into the possibility of safely doing some events for our high school students to attend. I know some other communities are doing it, so we could maybe piggyback or try to take some ideas that we could safely host a community service thing. So it'll be something maybe outside, and social distancing, of course. Last year we had a holiday decoration competition, which many people were interested in. So for this year, I had several requests to make sure that we do it, especially for this year, since it's been a kind of a challenging year. So I think it'll help improve the morale within our community. I want to remind everybody as well too that our businesses are still open. Many of our restaurants, for example, they're having to cater to the customers outside. But I just want to remind everybody that they're still open, and to help support your local communities and your local businesses here in the city of Paris. And I just want to encourage everybody with the holidays coming in to stay positive, and to just think about all the great things that are happening. With that said, I believe that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Magana?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to begin by echoing that there's truly no way to thank our veterans for everything they sacrificed for our freedom. And since tomorrow is Veterans Day, we must make sure that we try. So a great thank you to all our servicemen and women, both past and present. I'd also like to bring to city staff's attention that SCAG has now announced the 2020-21 Sustainable Communities Program. And this housing and sustainable development call for applications is open to eligible applicants, and it provides planning resources and technical assistance to local agencies to support the implementation of Connect SoCal, which is a long-range vision for transportation and land use planning for the region. I know that's been constantly on council's radar. And so this SCP housing and sustainable development call for applications includes 3 specific project types, each with a unique application to fund planning and implementation projects that result in the development of supporting housing policies and programs. And then if staff needs any assistance in allocating this program, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with that. And then my comments are pretty brief today, but just a reminder for our city residents to please stay safe and healthy and vigilant in celebrating the upcoming holidays. And that concludes my comments for tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I also want to congratulate the celebration of all of the veterans in our city. And many of the local restaurants are offering a free meal for the veterans. And today is the anniversary of the Marines. So to all of the Marines out there, happy birthday. And I want to congratulate Mayor Vargas and my council member, Malcolm Corona, on their successful reelection to the city council. And I also want to thank Mr. Gums and Ms. Placentia for their willingness to serve the residents of the city of Paris. And I personally want to thank all of the voters that came out. And I'm very grateful for all of the ones that did exercise their right to vote and took it very seriously, because this was a very important election. As you can see what's going on now, we're still waiting for the right outcome for our presidential election. And just want to thank God for his favor for giving me another opportunity to serve the residents of Paris. I'm deeply honored for that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I want to start off with a big shout out to our former engineer. We saw him earlier, Mr. Habib Matlug, who donated $2,000 towards the Luera Family Corporation. This is a nonprofit organization who will be holding a toy and food drive during the week of Christmas, and also to our contracted engineering firm, Interwest Consulting Group, who donated $5,000 to the occasion. If you remember, they had just recently donated $3,000 to three outstanding athletes last month to go on a prestigious football tournament. So we really thank Mr. Habib Matlug and Interwest Consulting Group for giving back to our community, which truly appreciated, and mostly for our community members who are going to be receiving some gifts and food during the holidays. Happy Veterans Day, as everybody has been indicating. I was fortunate to go to the Paris Calvary Chapel this past Sunday and participated in their Veterans Day service by issuing some of our veterans some service medals. And I'm also excited that hopefully this month, maybe next month, we will start groundbreaking as well for our new Veterans Memorial site here in Paris, located at 1st and D Street. A lot of history here in Paris, in our Paris cemeteries, with over 800 military service men and women who have been buried here dating back to the Civil War. Is very exciting, and to have our own memorial site will be even more exciting, and I look forward to that event when we get to do our groundbreaking. Most likely it'll probably be virtual as well, but it will be exciting for Paris to have our own memorial site. So with that, congratulations to my colleagues as well for their successful campaign and being reelected. And with that, I will turn over to our city manager for his reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. We do want to invite the community to a outreach which will take place this Friday, November 13th, here on the City Hall campus from 3 to 5 p.m. Our community service department is applying for a grant, and we'll be looking for feedback on how we can improve the City Hall campus, and more specifically Foss Field and the surrounding area to provide more community amenities. So it's going to be a drive-through event, which will be kind of fun. We're inviting the public to come here, and we're going to have various locations throughout the campus for them to drive through. And at the end of it, the evening, they'll get a dinner for participating. And ultimately, we're hoping we'll get some really great feedback, which will make our grant application to the state really competitive. So again, that's this Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Drive-through only right here at City Hall campus. And then it's a little unusual, but we want to introduce you to our newest member of the city staff. Typically, we would have invited him today and introduced him. He's been on the screens all evening, but you probably hadn't had a chance to notice him. But our Assistant City Manager, Ms. Mita Montes, will introduce you to our new Public Works Director.
Thank you, Richard. First, I just want to thank the City Council for entrusting me with the interim appointment. So thank you. It is a pleasure to serve the City of Paris. So now I'd like to introduce our latest addition to the executive team. That's Mr. Bryant Hill. He comes with us with many years of experience in the public works operations management throughout Southern California and various cities in Southern California, including from the city of Las Vegas. He's done some work out there as well as in public works management. His most recent post was with the city of Poway. So he left the city of Poway to join us here at the city of Paris as our public works director. So now I'd like to welcome Bryant, and I'll turn it over to him so he can tell you a little bit more about himself. Bryant?
Thank you, Clara. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. As Clara mentioned, I'm Bryant Hill. Have over 20 years of experience in public works. 13 of that was with the city of North Las Vegas. And then the last 8 years, I've been here in Southern California, working as a public works manager. I have a bachelor's degree from Oregon State University. And I also have a master's degree in public administration from National University. I'm excited and thankful for this great opportunity to work for the city of Paris. And I look forward to meeting and working with all of you and also with the residents of Paris. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Clara. And on behalf of the team, we're excited to have Brian on board. We're sad to see our interim Public Works Director, Joe Indruan, leave. He's in the meeting this evening, but this will be his last meeting with the council. So I'd like to thank him personally for serving what we thought was going to be a couple months, ended up being a little bit longer than that, almost a little more than 6, I think, or longer. But thank you, Joe, and we're happy to have Brian on board. With that, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. And Bryant, hanging Tiger Woods on the wall there behind you. You're on a great team there, buddy. So, well,
Thank you.
There he is. So welcome to our city, and we will be conversing later, I'm sure, the rest of us in the council with you. So, sounds like you have a lot of experience behind you. I think we're gonna be okay. And Joe, thank you very much for your interim services. It was greatly appreciated. So with that, there is nothing further. I want to thank everybody for joining us, either from home or on your phones. I want to wish everybody again a happy Veterans Day. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you at our next meeting. And may everybody have also a very nice Thanksgiving with your family. Good night, everyone.